Hello, and welcome to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. I am your host, as always, Josh Carr, and we're back again. It's another episode, and of course that means I've got another guest with me. And you know, here at Who Knew, we don't do things by halves. We don't do things semi-skimmed. We only do things full fat. So that's why I'm joined today by the wonderful Matt from Full Fat Videos. How are you?
I wasn't sure that was going to go for a second.
Neither was I. If I'm honest with you, neither was I. I never am.
Fantastic.
I'm glad you liked it.
I did. I'm very well. Well, maybe I'm very well is a bit of a lie because I'm quite hungover from the weekend. My flatmate had a house party for his birthday, so I'm kind of reeling from that. I'm still kind of coming back to reality, and then for viewers at home that don't know, we just had a cacophony of technical issues for the last half an hour, which was all my fault.
Yeah, it wasn't your fault. It was no one's fault. These things happen, but we're here now, and you can hear us both, hopefully. That might be a future Josh problem if you can't. We're going to start right at the very start, as we always do. Doctor Who, which is what we're here to talk about today. I can't even remember if I mentioned that or not, but this is a Doctor Who podcast. We're here to talk about Doctor Who, obviously. Where did Doctor Who start for you as a fan? Where was your first Doctor Who experience?
I was playing Ratchet and Clank 2 on the PlayStation 2 in my bedroom in 2005. And my mum, who's always been quite a big sci-fi fan, she kind of introduced me to Star Wars and Alien and all those kinds of things. She came in, she was like, there's a show on at 7 o'clock called Doctor Who. I really think you will like it. I think you should give it a go. And I was like, okay, cool. And I remember exactly what I was doing at that part of Ratchet and Clank. I was playing, like, have you ever played Ratchet and Clank 2?
I must have played Ratchet and Clank 2. I think the last time I played it was probably about 2005, probably. And it was at a mate's house once, so I don't know anything about that game.
I think my last time playing was probably like 2013 because I got like the collection on PS3, so I went back through it then. Phenomenal game. One of my favourites in the series. But yeah, I was playing like the gladiator mode, where you sort of like you get sort of sent upwards into 0G. And everything's kind of on a slant, and you're shooting all these enemies. And I was having a great day, you know. Back when you were younger and you didn't have anything to do, no responsibilities, you could just sit on the PlayStation,
carefree.
Yeah. So I gave it a pause, went downstairs, I watched Rose, which was the first ever episode of Doctor Who I'd ever watched. First time I had any introduction to any of the lore, any of the characters, like who the Doctor was. I had no idea, and I absolutely fell in love with it. From that first episode, I was completely blown away, and I remember coming back onto the PlayStation the rest of the night, just like buzzing, thinking about like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen next week? And we didn't have a computer at the time, so I couldn't like jump on and like speculate or like research things. It was all just like left to the imagination to next week. All you had was that like 30-second trailer at the end. And I was like, oh my god, like it's going to be the end of the world next? Like, where are we going? What's going to happen? So that's probably like the most vivid memory I have of that first episode. But it was a banger, wasn't it, Rose?
Oh, such a banger. It's my first episode too. It's not uncommon on Who Knew to have Rose babies, as I call them, like that, where our first episodes were Rose. We had like a good run of like 7 or 8 episodes where I think like in almost all of the episodes, the trailer got mentioned, like the one with the explosion behind Chris.
Oh
Rose and Rose is like, I'm gonna throw it all in for danger, and it's all very camp. I love it. I absolutely love. I love the fact that it's now become like this cultural moment where everyone remembers what, because I could reel you off that entire evening from start to finish, because I just remember exactly where I was. I missed the start. I missed the start of Rose. I missed the title sequence. So I didn't see the title sequence until End of the World.
Oh wow!
Or maybe if I watched the repeat, but I don't think I would have.
Yeah.
But the first, I was in Sainsbury's getting some 3 for £1 sweets with my dad, like fizzy laces and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we sprinted back. I don't know why I had this obsession with Doctor Who, because my dad didn't watch it, my mum didn't watch it. I just saw this advert and was like, oh, this is a hyperfixation that is going to keep hold of me for at least 18 years. The first thing that I remember seeing is the arm of the Auton going up.
Oh,
So
my God.
literally my first bit of Doctor Who that I ever saw would have been Chris saying run.
Oh, it's amazing.
What a moment.
Yeah.
What a cultural moment that was.
It's still probably one of, if not the best openers. I do really, really enjoy 11th Hour. I think that's probably like, it's probably the best opener, but it's one of those things I could teeter on any day of the week between Rose and 11th Hour. And I have a massive soft spot for Deep Breath as well. In spite of its flaws, I think it's a pretty good episode.
Yeah, Smith and Jones is up there for me.
Oh,
Smith
yeah,
and Jones has always been up there. Smith and Jones is a big one. But I feel like every series opener, I can remember exactly where I was. There's loads of Doctor Who episodes where I can't remember what the hell I was doing when I watched them. But
well, I think
there's
the
always
opener has
weird
like
ones that stick in my mind.
It has like a certain level of hype, doesn't it? And I think particularly when you're watching it back. I mean, we're going back to like when we were like in school, like you know, kind of like the things you're passionate about. And not all you have, but that's kind of, you know, it's all you have to worry about in any given day of the week, isn't it? Or like, you know, you can just be like, oh my God, it's on Saturday. One thing I think is really interesting as you get older is that you stop kind of, or at least I have, like having that kind of like aching excitement for things where you're like, oh my God, this film isn't coming out till May and it's January. It feels like forever away. Whereas now I'm like, oh my God, like we're almost in April. Like, how is this happening? Like, can we just slow down a bit?
I mean, I think Doctor Who is the only thing that I still have that for, really. Like, I have that like sort of old feeling of like, oh, the years are flying by, and like I can't believe that it's like we're halfway through March already. Yeah. But then there's this tiny little voice at the back of my mind that goes, yeah, but you're a day closer to the 60th anniversary. You're a day closer to Shooty, and Russell's back. Yeah. And there's all this excitement. I mean, let's talk about that, because I mean, I think we've chatted a little bit over messages about the collective hype around what's to come. Because it feels like it's really ramping up now. Like, it feels like we're getting to the 60th sort of celebration era, which is quite exciting.
It was one of those weird things, like when Russell got announced as coming back, and then David and Catherine and so on. It was very exciting. It was very mind blowing, but I think there was still an element to it that didn't feel real. Like when it really kicked in for me was when they dropped that first trailer for the 60th, and like Neil Patrick Harris was in it, and it looked fantastic. It looked really exciting, and then obviously it was bringing up all those questions from the end of Series 4 about you know, how Donna could possibly see the Doctor ever again, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is really happening now. Like it is imminent. Where were you actually when you found out about Rusty Davies coming back? Because I was brushing my teeth in my bathroom, and my flatmate, who's also really big into Doctor Who, he like started frantically knocking on the bathroom door whilst I was brushing my teeth, and I thought like, well, he wouldn't do this unless it was like something really important. Like, you know, he doesn't know I'm taking a number 2 right here. Like, I could be doing anything right now. So I opened it whilst I was still brushing my teeth, and he just went like that with the phone and like put it in my face. And I was like, what? Like that's real? And he was like, it's on the BBC website. And I just,
oh my God,
I just lost my marbles.
It was a minute before my lunch hour ended. So,
oh my God,
I was literally just clearing my lunch away, just packing my stuff up, and then I got a notification on my phone, and my brain just melted, and I cried. I had a little cry because I was just overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, what? And then I had to go back up to work and just pretend like I was a normal human being, and everyone was like, are you okay? You look weird, like you're breathing weird. And I'm like, yeah. And then I had to try and explain it, and they were like, what a guy's just writing for Doctor Who again. Right. Yeah, you don't get it. You don't get it. You don't get it. It's fine.
Yeah. They don't know. This is
But,
like the second coming of Christ, isn't it? For
yeah,
Doctor Who.
yeah. I was like, I just had to play it off like, yeah, the guy who did Years and Years and It's a Sin is doing Doctor Who again, and they were like, oh, that's cool. It's like, yeah, it's cool.
I mean, I think the fact that It's a Sin came out, and then I think that was the last thing he did before the announcement, right? If I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah. I think that was the start of 2021.
Yeah,
and then the announcement was like September.
Yes, yeah. I feel like it couldn't have been at a better time because I came away from finishing It's a Sin. Like, I think that's probably the best thing he's ever done. Every episode was leaving me bawling in tears. It was so good. And so like for him to be coming back at the height of his powers, it's like like how Quentin Tarantino kind of talks about how like creatives and like writers and directors, like as they go further into their careers, they kind of inevitably get worse, and then like their final kind of films are always kind of terrible, even if they're like some of the best directors of all time, which is partly why he wants to sort of finish on 10 films. But that rule is not true of Rusty Davies. I feel like he's just been going from strength to strength.
Gotten better, hasn't he? Like that, I think there's some people who have very valid concerns as well as valid excitement about the new era, and I share a couple of concerns. I don't want to piss on anyone's chips, but yeah, I'm very excited. I think the best thing about it is we're not getting Russell from back then. It's not that Russell T Davies, the Doctor Who writer, is coming back. It's that Russell T Davies, the messiah of British TV, like the man who's written Years and Years and It's a Sin and some of the best TV of the past decade since leaving Doctor Who, is now back, and that's what excites me. I think he's just a better writer than he was, and I think any little quibbles that I had with his writing back when he was doing Doctor Who, a lot of those I've seen sort of get ironed out in like Years and Years and It's a Sin. I'm excited. I am excited. I think I have to be excited, even though that I have some minor concerns like that. Yeah. I think excitement is my main force at the minute. So
no, I know what you mean, because it's like, obviously with anything, there's a chance it could be a misfire. There's a chance it could be bad, but I think everything that Russell's done in the interim has been fantastic, which excites me. I think him kind of taking a long enough of a break with it says to me that I imagine if you stop being Doctor Who showrunner, it doesn't mean the ideas stop coming. I think for both like RTD or like Moffat, should we say, who both had years of time off from it now, that there must have been a time in that interim where they've gone, oh, that would make a good monster, but too bad I can't do it now. So I think there's probably going to be some really cool fresh ideas injected into it. I don't think it's just going to be a retread of his previous era. I think he's smart enough, and he's always got kind of his finger on the pulse of the cultural moment. So I think he'll know that it needs to be really 2020s and really updated and different. And I get people's concerns about like the 60th being a David Tennant, Catherine Tate fest. I think he's going to be smarter than that. I don't think it's just going to be like a nostalgia parade. I think it's going to directly address within the material the fact that we have these old legacy actors coming back, and I think it's going to set the stage for Ncuti Gatwa and beyond. I don't think it's going to be like a retread. I think it's going to be like fresh.
Yeah, I think that's sort of everyone's initial concern. But then I even since the announcement that he was coming back, I thought, if there's one man who's not going to want to do the same as Russell T Davies did, it's Russell T Davies now. Like, I think, if anything, it guarantees that he will want to do something different to prove. Like, I think you'd be more likely to get a Russell T Davies rehash from another writer who wants to harken back to the era or is inspired by that era. I think that the person that you're guaranteed to get something different from is probably Russell T Davies. My big concern at the minute would be, it's quite a topical one. A few people have been chatting about it. Bringing in new blood and the sort of possible lack of bringing in new blood.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm not going to delve too deep into this because friends of the show, Sam Davis and Will Carlisle, Mr. TARDIS, did a video on Will's channel a few days ago that sort of goes through this whole idea of pulling the ladder up and not allowing new writers, like the fact that there's like a video clip that's been going around of Russell and Phil Collinson and David Tennant sat around a table sort of saying like, how fun is it that in like 15, 20 years all these kids who watch Doctor Who are going to be the ones making Doctor Who. And now 15 years later, Russell T Davies, David Tennant and Phil Collinson are all back making Doctor Who. And it's, you know, I think there's valid concerns there, and I'd highly recommend that video because they sort of
I'd like to watch that.
They very much say words better than I do. So
I think I would say that I get that concern, and I do think there's a degree to that is a shame. But I also think, you know, the BBC is under attack by our current government. There's no two ways about that, and I think Russell T Davies understands that maybe perhaps better than any other writer in the country, and I think he's keenly aware that Doctor Who needs to be the BBC's like flagship. It needs to maintain, like, I think it's like one of our biggest exports next to like Top Gear under the BBC. So I think he understands like its importance, and I think he's basically just trying to ensure without a shadow of doubt that it is the biggest it's ever been. I do get the concern that it's a bit disappointing. It's like he's doing what, like 4 of the 8 episodes for shooting, and we've got the rumour that Moffat's back.
This is the thing. I mean, we don't really know until this is all confirmed. I think director-wise, there's quite a lot of fresh faces to Who, other than Rachel Talalay and Mark Tonderai, who are both also not from Russell's era. They're from Stephen's era and Chibnall's era. It's other than those two, it's all new faces, which is nice. But obviously a lot of quite seasoned professionals. I don't think there's many younger, just starting out directors, but they are quite seasoned professionals, but they're new to Who. And a lot of them haven't worked on the BBC before. But yeah, it's sort of the writing staff thing. Like obviously Russell's writing the 3 specials. It's the boys' club, isn't it? Like it is a little bit. I think that's the concern, is that, you know, if Russell's writing 3 specials and then we're getting 8 episodes, and we know for a fact he's writing 4 at a bare minimum of those, even without the idea of Moffat coming back, that's 7 out of the next 11 episodes written by Russell T Davies. It's whether there's enough room in there for some new voices. I just think I think it would be nice to have some new diverse voices in there that sort of freshen it up a little bit.
Absolutely.
Even though I love a Stephen Moffat story, and I'm sure that I would really enjoy a Stephen Moffat story. Yeah. But it would also be nice to hear someone's story that we haven't heard before.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of thing only improves the quality of the writing when you have different perspectives and different walks of life. Yeah. And I do think that is, you know, it's no secret that I wasn't a massive fan of the Chibnall era, but I do think one of the things that they really did that was fantastic was it was more diverse, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. And that's something I don't want to see taking steps backwards in. But again, I think Rusty Davies, I think he is smart enough to be aware of that, and I hope that as we do go forward, we're going to get new announcements for new writers and fresh talent. As you say, it's just like we kind of just got to see what happens. But I do think the days of Moffat's like boys' clubs are kind of over. I don't think we're just going to be seeing it like a ton of white men on the writing staff.
I would hope
with some previous series. But you know, we'll just have to see, I guess.
Us two, the figureheads of diversity in media. You know, 2 white dudes on a podcast telling you how to do diversity right.
We haven't even got like different beards. You know, it's all just...
we literally have the same beard. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about you for a while. Russell's had his time. He's had his time in the limelight. Let's talk about you, Matt. Full Fat Videos. An amazing channel. A channel with the number I've forgotten, but copious amounts of subscribers. I did have it in my head.
I liked the little, like, you kind of like, did I put it in my notes?
No, I did not.
Shit.
I thought I put it in my notes. Surely over 300,000.
Yeah, it's about 336 now.
I knew it was about 300. See? I had it. Nailed. Amazing channel, may I add.
Thank you.
A channel that I've watched for years, was recommended to me by a mutual friend of ours, the wonderful Owen Likes Comics.
I think
many years
Likes
ago.
Comics is his last name.
It is,
That's how I know it. Like, that's just, yeah.
I went to school with Owen, and I can confirm that the register was Owen Likes Comics.
Always Likes his middle
It's all
name.
one word. No, Likes, his full last name is Likes Comics.
Danger's his middle name.
Yeah. Owen Danger Likes Comics is his middle name.
Oh,
yeah.
amazing.
Hi Owen, who is definitely not listening to this. He's not a Doctor Who fan. He's never listened to my podcast.
How come you never convinced him to get into Doctor Who?
That I have tried so many times, and he is just, for someone who likes everything else nerdy.
Yeah.
It's just a black spot for him that he will not touch it. And I think it's now got to a point where, because I've asked him multiple times, he's now just doing it out of spite to me. I think he just finds it hilarious that he hasn't he would probably enjoy it, but he just is not watching it because he thinks it's funny.
No, I do totally get that, because in sixth form, two of my best friends really loved The Walking Dead, and it was kind of like at the height of its popularity, and I just was not into it at all. And
the same thing with The Walking Dead in high school.
It's just like, I don't know, it's so hard if you're not feeling something. Like, even if people tell you it's good, it's just like, there's so many things out there, like from books to games to movies to whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's if you're not already kind of interested, it's very difficult. And I think zombies are probably like my least favorite kind of monster. Anyway, but yeah, it did become like a sort of like almost out of spite. Like, even if I'd see something, I'd be like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." I'd be like, "No, I'm not going to watch it."
Yeah. So, the Full Fat Videos channel, where did that start for you?
Basically, I came out of uni and I was unemployed, and I was unemployed for like a good 3 to 4 months. I was in this sort of state of, teeing up 20 to 30 emails the night before to try and desperately get something, and then I'd shoot them all off at 9 a.m. And then I would sit in my pants and play Star Wars Battlefront 2. I would be applying and doing things aside from that. I don't want people to just think like, well, obviously that's why you got no job. You're just sitting on your ass. But no, I was going for coffees with lots of like industry people and going for meetings and like trying to get advice, like doing the whole rigmarole of basically asking around if anyone had a job. And no one did. I wanted to get into development. It was quite hard to get into. It's always like quite small interpersonal teams. I'd have like loads of pitch decks and scripted ideas and things like that. And yeah, nothing was really happening. So I said to my friend at the time, who I used to do full fat videos with, would you like to make some video essays maybe? And it might be a good thing for the CV. So he was like, yeah. And then it kind of just went from there. I'd done a couple of video essays before for like a kind of alumni publication from my old uni. And I enjoyed doing that, but I was kind of doing it under the thumb of someone else. And I really felt like, I feel like I could do this better if I'm my own boss and if I'm making kind of like the creative decisions. So I just thought, this is what I want to start up and do. And I was hoping that in the long run, it could get me a job. It's one of those funny things, is that you kind of, I was flailing around for months thinking, oh my God, I'm the world's biggest loser. I can't get anything. I've come from uni and I've moved straight back in with my mum. Like, I'm a failure. And then the first day I put out the first full fat video, I not only got offered a job from a meeting, but I pitched an idea and they wanted to option it that day. So I went from having nothing to having everything, or like, do you know what I mean? At least having like, a good bevy of opportunities that very day.
Yeah.
The first day I released the first full fat video. But it's one of those things, I guess if I hadn't have started doing full fat videos, maybe those other things wouldn't have happened. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, funny story with the option. That was a very exciting thing for a few years. And then Paul Rudd released a show on Netflix, which was the exact premise of the idea
Oh, really?
that I'd been developing up. Yeah, and it killed it stone dead. The title of the show was like the tagline for our pitch deck that I'd been working up with that company, and we had meetings with a couple of channels. I probably shouldn't name any of this stuff. We had a writer on a pretty prominent BBC comedy series write the pilot, so it was going along very well. Yeah, and it was very exciting. And then
So your first video, what was your first full fat video? Is it one that's still up? Because a lot of people, when I have them on the podcast, their first videos are long gone and have since been privated and taken away from prying eyes. Is yours still up there?
Yes, it was the X Factor. How the winners.
The X Factor one. I was going to ask you about the X Factor one because I was looking at what your most viewed videos were, and it's like fourth. It's like so high up there.
Yeah,
like it's one of your most viewed.
It's I think it's gone down a little bit more now because there's been a couple of Star Wars videos that have kind of superseded it. But I'm quite proud to say that there's probably about 10 videos on the channel now that have got like more than 1 million views. And that is also one of them. So I feel like that's once I reach the end of my YouTube career, that'll be like something I can look at and be like, yeah, that was cool that I managed to do that.
Like those numbers are insane. Like as a smaller creator, that blows my tiny mind. The idea of that many people watching your videos. But I think it's testament to the quality of them. Like your videos are so well produced and so well thought out and well scripted as well. I think your scripts are fantastic. Your Doctor Who videos are exactly the same, but obviously you cover so many different things. There's a lot of channels out there that do cover Marvel, DC, Star Wars as sort of the main staples of nerd culture. In terms of like doing video essays about them and stuff, have or would dip their toe into Doctor Who. Are there any like reservations about doing Doctor Who content?
I think they've been a real cornerstone to the channel for that very reason, because there's a million other Marvel YouTubers and Star Wars YouTubers that get like millions and millions of views for doing those kinds of videos, whereas I feel like, like Doctor Who video essays of that same kind of style, there's much less in that sphere. So I felt like early on it was definitely a good kind of sort of subset kind of corner. But also it was just that I do really love Doctor Who that much as Marvel and as much as Star Wars. And as much as I like to cover a wide range of things, I think those three franchises, they have such passionate fan bases. And there's always such a dense history to those things. It's always great to dip back into them every now and then on the channel. But also like it was one of my first successes. Like I did Moffat's Dalek Problem. That was like my third video. And the Marvel video I did, actually, there was the second video, bombed. No one clicked on it. So it was still in that very early stage where it was like just trying out different things. And the Moffat's Dalek Problem, it's well behind the X Factor video now, but at the time it was like the biggest video I had, and I couldn't believe, like it was so kind of mind blowing to have that many people click on a Doctor Who opinion that I put out there. And I think actually, like, I think the internet can be a really horrible place sometimes. I think people can be really vitriolic and needlessly spiteful, but I also think one of the most surprising things that I've come across from doing full fat videos is how nice people can be as well. And I think some of the comments I've gotten over the years, particularly on Doctor Who videos, have been just wonderful. And I think there's, it kind of restores my faith in humanity when you read some of the comments that people have left, or like just saying they enjoy the video, or even just sharing their opinion, even if it's not the same opinion as yours on Doctor Who. It's just wonderful to see that community thrive. Yeah. I think too often sometimes we look at the internet as like this negative thing. Definitely. But I think, there's been some really nice comments over the years that I've gotten from people, and it's been really uplifting.
Yeah, I can imagine. You deserve them, because I love, like I said, I watch pretty much all of your videos religiously. Your Doctor Who videos especially are, they're on my rewatch list. Like, I rewatch them all the time as well.
Oh,
like
thanks.
half of those views are probably me. Like your video, which again, I think this is one that's done really well. Is your one about the Weeping Angels and how Moffat created the scariest Doctor Who monster?
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
done.
yeah.
That's a really good video, and your 50th anniversary video as well
I've
is
got a fun
so
fact for
good.
the Angels video.
Yeah.
It was edited by one of my long-term friends, someone I went to school with, and he's now a YouTube editor for, I don't know if you've heard of CoffeeZilla, but
I haven't, but I'm a granddad. But people at home probably will have.
it's a massive channel. I think it must have almost 1 million subscribers. It's got millions and millions of views. Coffee, he like takes down scam artists. That's like his deal.
Oh, I think I've heard of it. Yeah.
Well, I can imagine you might have heard of him because he's broken some massive things. Like he recently broke like the whole story of Logan Paul and Crypto Zoo and all that kind of thing.
Yes.
Logan Paul responded.
Yes, that's where I've heard his name. Yeah. Oh my god! Wow.
Yeah,
that's
and
big.
It's surreal that like my childhood friend, I've seen him go from strength to strength. He went from helping me out with edits with some of my videos to now he's editing some of the biggest YouTube videos on the platform.
Yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't be happier for him. Shout out to Harry Bagg. He's an infinitely better editor than I ever will be. And it's just awesome to see him doing such incredible work like on CoffeeZilla's channel.
Are there any tidbits? Are there any little teasers of any Doctor Who videos that you're working on at the minute, or any ones that you want to do in the future?
I have a really weird working pattern, particularly since I've like been doing the channel for a few years now, like solely myself and full time, where I will promise a video and I'll even do the thumbnail because I love photoshopping. I love making thumbnails. So often the thumbnail will be the very first thing that I do when I come up with a video topic. Are you the same?
Exactly the same. Exactly the same. I've never done a video essay or like a video like that really. But I have about 20 thumbnails made for videos like that and like video essays that I want to do.
It's just so fun, isn't it? It's like it's a great visualization of your idea or whatever, or like you can, I don't know. It's such a fun creative space, and there's no onus on it, like in the same way that there's no onus on you to make it look a certain way. Like with editing, it's like I know I need to do this right. Whereas like I kind of feel like with Photoshop, it's a bit more creative in that I can like, oh, why not try this kind of color palette for it, or like try and cut out these characters, or so like I really enjoy that aspect to it. But I think the problem I have sometimes is I will slip into like another Doctor Who video. Oh, I'm going to do this video on like how T Davies did like the Marvel Cinematic Universe before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he used all the same principles. And I'm going to do that video. It's going to be huge. I'm going to give you that in the next few weeks, guys. And then, cut to 2 years later, people are still asking me, where is that video?
I would be lying if I said that hadn't come up in the questions later. I didn't include it because I wanted to. I was going to mention it now, but yeah, some people did ask, where is the Whoniverse video?
It
exist? Does it even exist yet?
There's a draft of it. But
well,
sometimes I take years to finish a video. Other times I'll come up with something on the day and then release it. Like when RTD got dropped as the new showrunner, I'd already put out a video that day, but I was so gassed up about it that I then wrote, shot, edited, released a video on that day. So I did that in a day, and then another video like Palpatine's campy acting. Or I'd probably say the most recent one I did that took ages to come out was I did like the problem with the Hulk in the MCU.
Yeah, great video.
Oh, cheers. But I came up with the bones of that years ago, and it's the same for that Doctor Who Whoniverse video. I don't know what it is. Sometimes I think because it's like a self-employed gig, there's no one to tell you, oh, you said you were going to do that. Do you still want to do it? Like, and so much of my work is rooted in the enthusiasm I have for things.
Well, that's the thing. I think if you're going to do it, then the passion's going to be there when you do it because you're going to have wanted to do it. So and you can always tell with that. Yeah. So I think that's a better way of working than nailing yourself to the mast and saying I'm going to make this, and this.
It's got its pros and cons.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes I do need to like shit and get off the pot with certain videos. I'm like, why have I not put that out? Like people have asked for it. I know it'll do well. Like just do it. But then like I'm very scattershot in the way that I make these things. Like sometimes I'll be halfway through a video and then I'll be like, oh, I've got this idea to do something else, and then I'll be really into it, and then before I know it, I've finished that video in the middle of making this other video. And of course, like the release schedule's all up to me as well. So if I want to put out like one video a week for a while, or one video every 2 weeks, or even 2 videos a week, that's entirely up to me. The video length is up to me. So yeah, it really just I really just go where the passion goes. But then there is also a point where I'm like, I know once I get into this Whoniverse video, I am going to get really passionate about it.
Yeah.
So I should just start, because if I don't start, then it's never going to happen.
I can't wait to see what comes next on the Full Fat Videos channel, whether it be Doctor Who or not. It was an instant subscribe. I've been subscribed ever since. And I watch all of your videos the day they come out, because they're all boss. So...
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. If there's anyone here who's watching this who hasn't already watched your videos, then I would be baffled. But go and check out the Full Fat Videos channel if you haven't already. We're going to take a little break. Very, very quick break. And then when we come back, we've got some features to attend to. So we're going to see you on the other side. So go and have a nice cup of tea or something. Go chill
Lovely.
out. Nice.
I'll put my feet up.
Yeah, put your feet up. Go feed the cat. Do whatever you want. In a bit. Hello. Why did I say that so weird? Hello, and welcome back. I've gone ASMR all of a sudden, but for some reason. Hello, and welcome back to Who Knew.
You sounded a bit like, that Mark Strong promo in the cinema. You heard that?
Hello. Is that Mark Strong?
I think so. When he's like, it's something like, a bit of silence is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never knew that was Mark Strong. Never knew that. But we're back. This is Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm still your host, Josh Carr, and I'm still here with... I was going to call you the Milky Boy. Matt from Full Fat Videos.
I can give you the backstory on Milk if you want.
Yeah, well, why Full Fat Videos? I feel like that needs to be a question that's asked.
Well, I basically, me and my friends at school had kind of like a running joke of calling things milky. Anything that was awesome would be milk. Yeah, there were tiers to that, so it was kind of like, something could be semi-skimmed or full fat or skimmed milk, which is not good. It could range from anything, it could be Apollo, Creed and Rocky's fight at the end of Rocky 3 that you don't see the winner to. We don't find out the decider until years later in Creed. That is a full fat milk moment. Doctor Who Series 5, that's full fat milk. Crocs, skimmed milk. Breaking the rules of the Geneva Convention, skimmed milk. Not cool. So
when I refer to you as Milky, that was a compliment.
Yes, yeah, and there'd be permutations like, milk machine. Oh man, you've been a milk machine at the moment. A milk wizard. Yeah, a milkman, nice. a milker. And it got progressively more stupid from there. And then I told some friends at uni about this, and they ripped me to shreds about it. And then a lot of them started using it all ironically. And then, of course, what eventually happened was people just started using it. So I then brought that into the lexicon at uni. And then when I came to make the channel, I just thought Full Fat Videos is a fun way to sort of, kind of hang a bit of branding around everything. You can do the cow at the end. I kind of also partly did it because one of my friends who I lived with in third year, she was like, I want the milk thing to die. I want it to die. I don't want to keep hearing it. Like, it's not funny anymore. We've run it into the ground. And then when I first did the first couple of videos and it was kind of blowing up, I messaged her. I was like, milk's here to stay. It's here to stay. But what's funny is I kind of put it into the videos in the first couple of years. I would say something was milk, but you
did. I listened. I was watching one of your videos earlier today, and I heard you say, milky. And I was like, I get the cow thing, but Milky just dropped in the middle of a...
Well, I think what happened was, once I went past 25 and my frontal lobe fully developed, it suddenly became even more stupid than it ever was before, to keep saying it. So, I feel like in an ideal world, maybe I'd just change the channel just to like my name or something, or I'd get rid of the milk stuff completely. But it's like the branding's so entrenched now, I might as well keep it.
I think Full Fat Videos is a great name. It's a great name. And because Matt and Fat rhyme, Matt from Full Fat just rolls off the tongue.
Which, by the way, is something that when I was in primary school and I was like 3 times bigger than I am now, is something that I'm so glad the bullies at school did not realise that those things rhymed. They never realised, and it's too late now, you fucking idiots. So it's all done.
Well, it's time for some features. Our first feature, as always.
Yeah,
we're gonna hear from the joys of Simon Pegg and Nick Frost as they introduce us to the DVD collection.
By the power of Grayskull.
The Unicorn and the Wasp, or Love and Monsters.
Which one do you think I'll prefer?
No, I mean, which one do you want to watch first?
You are pulling my leg.
Welcome to the DVD collection, a place where Doctor Who stories are submitted by my guests that are deemed certified Milky. Am I using it right? Does that work?
I honestly, I don't know anymore. You know what? It would be great to find out from your listeners if I should start saying all these Milky things again.
I think you should.
I feel like I'm frankly too old to keep doing it. I feel like I've got to be a bit more mature now.
I mean,
in my videos.
I'm lactose intolerant, so if you can have some inclusive language in there, often throw in maybe OT.
I'm going to give you an exclusive. I'm going to give you an exclusive right now. I don't drink normal milk. I haven't done for years. I've been drinking oat milk for years. It's that's the thing. It's like it's purely like a kind of meme thing that was in my real life that I just kind of translate to YouTube. I'm not like really particularly into milk in general.
Matt from Full Fat does not drink Full Fat.
No, he doesn't.
You've heard it here first. We're hearing basically it's a collection of episodes that have been submitted by my guests that are quintessential Doctor Who. Maybe stories that they love, maybe stories that they love to talk about, and there's loads in here, loads and loads and loads of them. But now we're gonna see what Matt would like to put on the DVD shelf. So please enlighten us.
It's Kill the Moon. No, it's Mummy on the Orient Express.
So close. We were so close to kill. There's going to be so many people listening. I've sort of joined a Kill the Moon revolution where we actually think it's quite good.
I don't think it's as bad as people make out. Like I remember when it came out, it was kind of like like worst episode ever.
I think where I land on Kill the Moon is that about 70% of it is not very good, and then the last 10 to 15 minutes is some of the best Doctor Who ever. Everything from when Capaldi says the moon's an egg, everything from there is perfection. Anyway, we've not picked Kill the Moon. What did you pick?
Mummy on the Orient Express.
I just heard Kill the Moon and I ran with it. Mummy on the Orient Express. So just after Kill the Moon, pick a wonderful pick. What made you want to discuss Mummy on the Orient Express? Thanks for picking one that's really easy to say.
Funny enough, I think it actually kind of goes back to what you were kind of asking me at the start of, like, what was your first foray into Who, and what was a good opener for you, and da-da-da-da. Because I feel like with Eccleston and Tennant and Smith, I loved their doctors from the first episode. With Capaldi, I liked Deep Breath, and I liked where it was going. But I was still kind of unsure. I think when they say in Time Heist that his outfit came out looking a bit magician, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know about this outfit, and I wasn't quite sure about him being. Do you know what I mean, like the nasty Doctor, and he's being a bit like colder than the previous iterations, and whatever it was, it still hadn't quite clicked for me. And then Mummy on the Orient Express, I just felt like that was the first time, even though it was like 8 episodes into the season, I watched it and I just thought, you know what? Yeah, Capaldi is he's goated. He's really good in this one. I think it's one of his best episodes still to this day. It's interesting when you try and get people that aren't fans of Doctor Who like into it, and like, or people will say to you like, you know, what's a good jumping on point? I don't always think it has to be an opener. I think sometimes it's good to just show someone a self-contained episode, just a monster of the week. You know, as long as you get the context that he's an alien traveller, he has a human companion, they travel across space and time, I think you can pretty much drop people into any episode. And I think that if I was trying to get someone into Capaldi, I would show them Mummy on the Orient Express over Deep Breath, because I think it just gets to the point quicker. It's a standard episode length, unlike Deep Breath. So I think, you know, if you want to show someone what is Capaldi Who like, it's like Mummy on the Orient Express. And I just think it's a perfectly structured episode. I always love how it's kind of like building up the mystery, and then Gus takes away all the holograms, he takes away all the illusions, and then suddenly they're just trapped in that one carriage. And Gus is like, right, the mummy's just going to keep coming out. Everyone in this carriage is just going to keep dropping until there's no one left, until you figure out what you need to figure out. And then that last, like, 25 minutes is just exhilarating Who. It's Capaldi at the height of his powers. And I think the resolution is fantastic. It's a great monster idea. It's interesting how Who will do, like, a 45-minute version of like a great horror movie. I think it was like a year later, It Follows came out, which is kind of, have you seen It Follows?
I haven't, no.
So it's kind of a similar premise, but with a bit more of like a psychosexual twist. It's people that like, it's essentially like you have like an STD and you pass it on to people by having sex with them. And once you've had sex with, like, so say I had the It Follows STD and we made love. And you now have it. So this monster, like the monster in Mummy on the Orient Express, is following me, and only I can see it. And no matter where I go, it will teleport. It will find me. It will get me. The only way I can pass it on and stop it to stop it killing me is to pass it on to you. And then you then have the choice: do I have sex with someone else to pass it on to them? Or do I let it kill me? But then if it kills you, it will then go back to me. So basically, it's kind of this like psychosexual horror film that kind of has similar. There's similarities to The Mummy, but obviously, like, you know, it's a much darker, more adult version. But it's a fantastic movie, by the way. I'd really recommend it, and especially if anyone likes Mummy on the Orient Express, I think you'd love that movie because it's really horrifying, and it's the same kind of visuals of like someone in the background walking towards the character in question, and you're like, oh my god, is that the creature? Is that it? It's coming closer and closer and closer. And I just love that kind of idea of inevitability, that you can't outrun this thing. It's walking towards you. It doesn't flinch at the sight of bullets. It will teleport if you teleport. There is nothing you can do. But of course, in the Doctor Who version, it's just that 66 seconds, which I think is also a really strange choice, but I think it totally works to have the actual timer come up like a heads-up display on the episode.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I think Moffat was very much into that in that era, because, you know, he was doing it a lot with Sherlock. Sherlock had something plastered all over the screen every 30 seconds. And I think there were bits of that sort of in the Matt Smith era, but I think that's a really nice, subtle use of it, because it's not too in your face. It's just there in the background.
It's a bold choice.
It's tucked away in the corner. It's bold, but I think it really does play off.
When it first happened, I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, it's kind of strange. I don't know, but it totally works.
Yeah. I mean, phenomenal episode. Phenomenal. A wonderful choice to go in. I'm always down for having more Capaldi in the DVD collection. If only someone had done, you know, a really in-depth video about how it would be a really good opener for someone. Like, how good would that be? Like, if someone had done a really, really good video on it. Oh, wait. You have. So go and check that out, because I watched that earlier, and I love that video as well. So
I will endeavour to say some some fresh things about it as well, because I'm aware that I did that video. I do think it's a perfect opener, but also I think it's representative of why Series 8 works, in that we were just talking about Kill the Moon. The whole argument at the end of Kill the Moon, which is kind of spurred on by The Caretaker, which is spurred on by like the Danny Pink relationship in Listen, Into the Dalek, spurred on by their relationship in Deep Breath. Like it's all building up to Mummy on the Orient Express. As much as it is a self-contained episode, I think it's great that it feeds into everything else from the season. I think the reason why it's one of my like more highly rated seasons out of Moffat Who is because it kind of does what Series 5 does, where you've got your self-contained stories, but the through line is all character work. It's their relationships, rather than it being like some sort of doomsday is coming. Like the whole through line in Series 8 is about Clara and the Doctor, and about Clara and Danny, and I just love that. I love that it's not really about what is Missy doing, what is she taking the souls for. Like that's addressed in the finale, but the rest of it is kind of like playing out that relationship at Coal Hill, and I think they do that beautifully in Mummy, when it kind of hits her that, oh, like this is our last adventure, but this is also, if we stick to the fact that it's our last adventure, that's the last time I'll ever see you, because you're not going to come round in a capacity for dinner. You don't do that. I think it's just such a beautiful kind of example of their relationship in that season is Mummy. It's
in the Mummy on the Orient Express is in the DVD collection. So fantastic. We're going to move on. Like the Orient Express, speeding through space, somewhere is Elon Musk ruining all of our lives on a wonderful website called Bloody Twitter.
For God's sake! Bloody Twitter!
Welcome to the Bloody Twitter segment. Thank you, David Tennant, for bringing us in there. We've got a stack of questions to get through, so I hope you're ready.
Is this a combo of the community post and Twitter? And
For one, this is the first time we've ever had Bloody Twitter questions not from Twitter. So thank you for that. Yeah, we've actually got some questions from YouTube. And I know for a fact on the next episode, we're going to have questions from Instagram. So Bloody Twitter is expanding to engulf all other social media platforms.
I get asked loads of questions randomly anyway, or I get DM'd questions. But then for some reason, as soon as you post, ask me some questions, no one does.
No one. Well, there was loads on there. There was some really good ones. First question is from Philip Hawkins at Culture Filter on Twitter, also a wonderful YouTuber. My question: what happened to the other guy who you used to make videos with on the channel?
We fell out, basically. No, it's oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. We used to be really, really good friends, and we did the channel like together. And then I think probably around like the second year of doing it, he kind of lost a lot of the passion for it. I don't think it was something that he wanted to do. We didn't really have very good communication on that. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty because I'm sure there's some things he probably feels that I didn't communicate. But yeah, I definitely... There came a point where I felt like I was making all the half-an-hour videos and the biggest videos, and I was dedicating a lot of time to it, and he was dedicating very little time to it, and always gave off this impression that he didn't want to do it. But then if I would have a conversation with him where I would say, do you still want to do it? Because if you don't, that's okay. He would say to me, no, I do still want to keep doing it. So I think like that kind of definitely created a wedge between us, where I felt like I was kind of not being used, but I was kind of, like obviously we were splitting the revenue 50-50, no matter how many videos one or the other was doing. But when one of you is making 30-minute, hour-long videos that are getting like millions of views, and the other person is kind of purposely making very short videos on topics that are very niche that we know aren't going to get clicks, that became a bit of a wedge between us. Things only kind of got exacerbated by the pandemic. We were going to quit our jobs collectively at one point. At the very last minute, he decided not to do that, which was something that I'd already kind of taken the leap on, and I think was a real blow to our friendship, because that made things very difficult for me. But I forged ahead, and eventually, after asking a couple of times, like, if they were still into doing it, eventually they relented and said that they weren't. And I think I kind of had this moment where I was a bit like, well, I wish you'd told me sooner, when I knew that you didn't want to do it anymore. And I think things would have gone a lot smoother in that sense. It's one of those strange things. I feel like I definitely made a real effort for us to come across as a duo with Full Fat, but there were many times when he wouldn't want to be involved in videos, or he wouldn't want to be on camera, and then it would kind of produce this result where sometimes people would comment on the channel as if I was just one person, and I think that would then kind of upset him. But then there was kind of this like dichotomy of me being like, well, I'm trying to include you. I wanted us to be equal footing with it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, I think I'll be really candid here. I've not really spoken about this before publicly, but it really eroded our friendship. And I know that's probably a bit disappointing to fans of the channel that liked us both. That's just how these things go, Yeah. And we're not close anymore. I've let it go. I don't have any grievance with him on it. I don't know how he feels about me in terms of it, but I just know that us being friends again is just never going to happen. But it's surprising that I got asked that, because I've probably been asked what happened maybe like a handful of times since it happened, in terms of like the whole influx of comments on videos and all that kind of thing. I wonder, kind of in hindsight, if I should have addressed him leaving, but we had a bit of a discussion with it when he finally did say that he wanted to leave, and we both kind of decided that, like, usually when these things happen, you have a duo and then someone says, I'm leaving, it's a risk that the channel is then going to like tank, because people will then suddenly think, oh, well, I'm not going to be going back to the same channel anymore. Like, it's not going to be the same. So he just kind of agreed with me to sort of just quietly leave. And I think the reason why it was a quiet exit as well was because at that point he'd very much been tapped out. I was doing the lion's share of stuff. He would level audio on things sometimes, or he would do a video, but it would be much smaller than the videos I was putting out, and I was very much in control of the biggest stuff that was coming out. I wish I could give a better answer. I wish I could say there's no bad blood there, but I think part of growing up is realizing that, people that you were really good friends with, that you think you're going to know forever, that's not always the case. Have you seen The Banshees of Inisherin?
I have. Yeah.
I feel like when I watched that, it was a film that really helped me further let that go, because it's just one of those things. It's like you can be best friends at some point, and then another time you're just not. You're different people fundamentally. Yeah. And I think that is basically it, is that we are fundamentally different people now. I think our goals are very different. I should say, the channel wouldn't have happened without him, and he was really instrumental in those early years, but I just think something changed along the way, and I think he was also very fearful of taking it full time, and it was something that I wanted, and I feel like maybe in hindsight, because he was the one that first suggested to go full time, I think he did it to appease me in hindsight, and I think it was definitely a friendship that no longer was honest anymore, and I think we were just doing things to appease each other, and I think it stopped us from being honest about what we really wanted and how we really felt about doing it. I think he always knew that I was very passionate about doing it, and I really enjoyed it. I wish he'd been more honest with me from the start, because I feel like maybe he worried that I was going to be really angry if he were to ever quit. And I think the truth to that is I wouldn't have been angry if he'd have just told me how he really felt. Yeah. The thing that made me
earlier
angry,
on, rather than the fact that it went on for so long. Yeah.
The thing that made me angry was all the bullshitting. There was the trying to comfort my feelings by not telling me what he really felt, telling me what he thought I wanted to hear. And I think that's why it's kind of an irreparable thing. It's a pretty juicy exclusive, because I've never spoken about it.
I mean, thank you for being so honest about it. It's a tough thing to talk about. and to talk about so openly. So thank you for being so open.
I guess I would just like to round it off by saying, I don't wish him any ill will. I wish him all the best. A full fat collaboration is not on the cards. Yeah, bit of a Greg Miller, Colin Moriarty. I think that one is.
Don't worry, the next ones aren't as grilling. Like this. What is your main reason for being? Jude, we're going to fall out here. What's your main reason for being a based TV movie TARDIS interior disliker?
When I first read that question, I was so confused on what he meant. I was like, what? Based? Interior? And then I was like, oh, right, okay, I get where it's
He's
going.
saying you're right. He's saying you're milky.
I guess this is based off of the TARDIS interior ranking video I did.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I was that negative on it from memory. But then, this is actually something quite funny that happens to me, is sometimes a video from years ago, someone will comment like a kind of vague reference to something I've said in the video about a time code. And I'll be like, I'll respond like, what did I say? And what bit? Because I can't remember what I said. Like, I don't know. Like, you're going back like years now, and I've made like hours upon hours of content at this point. Like, I can't remember everything I've said. And also, I think what's also interesting is, like I've been doing this for almost 6 years now, quite a few years now, like just solely by myself. Like, I can't, my opinions have changed on things. Sometimes things that I've said have kind of matured. It's kind of hard to sort of remember instantly. Like sometimes someone will say to me, "Oh yeah, what did this thing you said?" And I'm like, "That was 2018, dude. I don't know."
How do you feel about the TV movie in TARDIS Interior now? What are your feelings now? Is it just it's okay?
I like it. I just don't like it as much as some other candidates. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's always kind of the problem with doing rankings. Like, I did a Phase 4 MCU ranking recently, and I got so many comments saying, "Why do you hate Shang-Chi? Why did you put Shang-Chi so low?" Like, I liked that movie. I just put it fourth because there were 3 movies that I liked a little bit better. That's not to say that I think it's a bad movie. Do you know what I mean? It's but of course people just look at the fact that it's fourth and they go,
"Yeah, this is the thing."
You hated it.
I mean, I rewatched all of New Who and I gave everything a number ranking, and then I ranked every episode of New Who in order, and I'm like, there's episodes sat at like 105 that I like, but my 105th most liked episode of New Who sounds terrible, but I'll stick it on. I'll have a good time.
I think it was Sylvester McCoy said someone called him on the street and was like, "Oh, you're my 5th favourite Doctor," or something like that. And it's like,
I mean, nowadays that's quite good. If it was like 1989 when someone said that, then
I'm not sure actually.
There's only 2 below him. That's not very good. Nowadays, that's a respectable ranking. The next question is from Adam Grattan at Grattan Adam on Twitter. What is your dream Doctor Who spin-off project?
What, as in like something from the ground up that like hasn't been done?
Something that because obviously that's sort of all the talk at the minute is spin-offs and what's going to be coming. So
that's interesting because I feel like to answer this question, I should really base it off of a character that's been in the Whoniverse. But I feel like really what makes a lot of the spin-offs work, like in the original era, was like, you had it hung around Sarah Jane or Captain Jack, but what really made people stay was the new characters and the new ideas. But if I was to pick someone to spin something off of, maybe like Canton Everett Delaware III.
Nice.
Yeah, he was a character that I don't understand why he never was brought back. I almost want to do a video on it. Like, he was fantastic. And I remember at the time the actor was saying in interviews like, "Oh, I kind of want to be the new Brigadier, like where like they could bring me in on different stories every now and then."
And they definitely could do that.
Yeah,
they definitely could.
I remember thinking, why didn't they do that? But then I think kind of Moffat does have a tendency sometimes to just forget supporting characters really unceremoniously.
It's perfectly set up for that in the fact that, we sort of say goodbye to the Brigadier at the end of Series 6. With that nice little scene where he calls up. I think there's definitely someone who could fill that gap of that sort of like recurring like man of the law, but a little bit rebellious sort of character. And having an American would be quite fun.
Also, let's meet his husband. That was a good reveal at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I want to know who are they? Come on, let's that
Hugh
duo.
Grant. Let's just do the glass onion thing. It's Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant is everyone's husband. I tweeted about one of my dream spin-off project just because I think there were rumblings about it a few months ago, and now it's ramping up. Everyone either wants Unit or Torchwood, so why don't you have them sort of like mash up, bit in between, and you have your three central characters, which is Kate Stewart, Martha Jones, and Gwen Cooper. And then you've got Gwen. Yeah. Gwen's pushing for the more rebellious, the more Torchwood-esque approach. Kate's pushing for the more strict brigadier unit approach. And then you've got Martha in between. Yeah. Martha's sort of straddling both, where she's sort of the Doctor representative in terms of she's actually been a companion, but she's also been part of Unit and she's been part of Torchwood, and she can see the benefits of all of these approaches, and have them having to set up this new version of Unit or Torchwood. And
I really like
a tug
that.
Of war.
I don't like so exciting for so many reasons.
An account tweeted today.
Oh yeah,
it was a Doctor Who Leaks account tweeted that a Unit spin-off with Kate Stewart, Martha Jones, and Gwen Cooper will be going into production later this year. They tweeted that later.
How substantiated is that rumour?
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm going to say high, because it would mean that my prediction was right. So I'm just going to go full bias and say it's happening.
That's mental.
You heard it here first. But I have no idea how substantiated that is. I'm not a big fan of, for someone who basically made a full thread of like 30 to 40 Doctor Who spin-offs like a couple of months ago that had returning characters in. I'm such a hypocrite. I was like, I'm not a big fan of just saying this returning character should have like a full series. But I think if you can ground it in something, or maybe mash up a couple of characters who we haven't seen together, I think that could be interesting.
I think in terms of like, what we do is we're kind of fans who are commenting on it. I think it's absolutely fine to reel off a load of spin-offs that you would like to see, or just in terms of it being a creative exercise. Like sometimes on the channel I will do like here's a pitch for Venom 3, or here's what I think would happen if Hugh Jackman met Tobey Maguire. Like at the same time I'm doing videos saying there's too many superhero movies. So like, but I think that's okay, because it's like I'm not, Mr. Disney. I don't have the power to make these things happen. Yeah. I'm just talking about it because I think it would be fun to talk about, and I think it's nice for fans to engage with those things. So I don't think it's hypocritical for you to be like, I think the spin-offs should be new characters, but also here's a load of spin-offs of previously established characters, because you're just having fun. You know what I mean? Like you're just digging into it.
I think one thing that's like a bit of untapped potential with Doctor Who, and I've only really just made this link, is like there's like this niche at the minute which we get in sort of superhero films, Guardians of the Galaxies, your Suicide Squads, like a ragtag bunch of people all crammed together who shouldn't work together but do work together. Weird space stuff, basically. And then I realised that that's sort of just Red Dwarf. And like why don't we just bring Red Dwarf into and make it canon Doctor
part of the
Who
universe?
Yeah, that could 100% work.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made that Wolford is in the Whoniverse, so anything can happen.
Anything could happen. Anything could happen. We're going to move on to some YouTube questions. This is exciting, isn't it? So these are questions from your subscribers, because you did a little community post and asked for some questions. We're going to run through a few of these. So from Greg Sanders on YouTube, who would you consider as a great regular writer or writers from the past couple of series of Doctor Who, and what type of episodes are you hoping that they could tackle if they were to continue onwards into the new Davies era? So what I want to do is tailor this slightly, just because I think it's interesting. As someone who, I like the fact that you haven't, joined in the pile on it as much as someone who's sort of quite a fan of the Chibnall era, but you've said multiple times it's not been for you. Are there any writers in that era that did actually stand out to you, even though you weren't a massive fan of the era? And are there any that you would like to hear more from in the future?
I'm really struggling because I've that era is so far out of my head now. But was it Helen, someone who wrote Villa Diodati?
Oh, Maxine Alderton.
Maxine Alderton. I don't know where I got Helen from. Maxine Alderton, apologies. She was fantastic. That's an episode that when it aired, I was really starting to teeter towards, oh, maybe this could really be a great era. I loved that we took like a regular Cyberman and made them like a villain in their own right and gave them kind of their own backstory. I thought it was a tense episode. I'd be really happy for them to come back. Yeah, so that's probably my favourite episode of the era, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, she worked. Have you seen Flux? Have you watched Flux?
No, I got to the Timeless Child and I mean, you probably know my take on this because I did a video on it. But I just fundamentally disagree with making the Doctor kind of special from birth and exploring all these origins, kind of in a not quite, but kind of like Cartmel kind of way. I think the Doctor should be many faces other than just skinny white men. I have no problem with that, but my take on it is always, let's keep pushing for that in the future rather than going back and changing the past. Like the Doctors of the future, I think we should have another female Doctor. I think we should keep having Doctors of colour. Personally, I think it would be more progressive and more inclusive to say, you know, here's the Fugitive Doctor spin-off. Here's her full series, rather than us writing in all this backstory. Like she should have her chance to shine. Do you know what I mean? Like her moment in the limelight.
Oh yeah, no, that's something that we've spoken about on the podcast before. The inclusion of the Fugitive Doctor is great, but the lack of development of the Fugitive Doctor and the usage of the Fugitive Doctor. Like we brought it up when we covered Power of the Doctor, and you know, we sort of broke it down in terms of actual screen time of the Fugitive Doctor with like where they're not a manifestation or a hologram. It's like 20 minutes. And
I just
it's just not enough. It's just not enough for me, and I think it's actually doing the character a disservice at that point.
I know it's not the intention, but I think the result is that you've brought in the Fugitive Doctor, but what's ended up happening is the White Doctor is the main Doctor, and the Black Doctor is the understudy that pops up every now and then. And I think that's a real disservice, and like it's a big deal to finally have a Black Doctor in the mainline continuity. You know what I mean? Like that should be treated with respect, and it should be something that we treat with as much time and care as any of the Doctors that have come before it. And I think it's just a shame. But then, I mean, even saying this, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, I'm not black, so I'm sure there's black fans out there of Doctor Who that really got something from the fact that she popped up in the show. And I'd be interested to hear their takes on, you know, was it enough, the screen time that she got? Should she have been given her own spin-off, or should she have become a mainline Doctor? Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, I'm not saying Jodie Whittaker's time should have been cut short, but wouldn't it have just made more sense to have had Whittaker regenerate into Joe Martin, and then we have the Joe Martin adventures? You know, like, why does it have to be this side hustle? I don't know.
I get what you mean.
Yeah. I don't think it's entirely up to me to say, but that would be my take on it if someone were to ask me. Is I'd say that, you know, I think she should have been given as much time as Whittaker if you're going to do it. Yeah. Like, don't do a half measure.
Yeah. I mean, so Maxine Alderton co-wrote an episode in Flux with Chris Chibnall, the Weeping Angels episode, which is, for me, probably the best of the series, up there with the Sontaran episode. Yeah. And I'd say that they're probably both in my top 5 Jodie episodes, so they're definitely the higher end. And I got the impression that Village of the Angels was very much Maxine Alderton's standalone script for what was originally going to be Series 13 before COVID affected it. Yeah. And it's sort of just been reworked by Chibnall to fit into a serialised format. and it works really well. It's a very good episode. So, what type of episodes would you hope for her to do if she came back in the Davies era? That was the other part of the question.
Well, as I say, I really love that idea of taking a regular version of a monster and giving them individuality. So I'd love to see her do that again with something else, because I think sometimes the problem with the Daleks and the Cybermen and the other kind of monsters is they become kind of like a collective. And I think that was very much the problem with like the Daleks under Moffat, is like there's no leading Dalek contingent that actually sits down and has a conversation with the Doctor. I mean, well, sorry, I should preface less the Moffat era, because obviously you got Davros coming back in, but more like the Smith series. The Daleks are just the Daleks. They're just there. There's no like head Dalek. There's no Dalek that's had something specific happen to them. Whereas like, even like the Cult of Skaro, they had individuality and they became recurring characters, and I think that was really interesting. And I think Ashad kind of continues on that legacy of giving us something a bit more interesting to chew on with just a single creature from that race. So I'd love to see that happen again. I think that would be interesting.
There's a bit of that with the Angels.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
She uses the whole Angels using other people's voices quite well, so that the Angels communicate through people. And there's some amazing standalone scenes with sort of like Kevin McNally's character, where there's a weeping angel that smashes through a TV and is using his voice to taunt him.
Well,
it's
cool.
It's really cool, really cool. So there's some good stuff in there.
I don't want to be too negative on not watching Flux, because I've come across people be like actually like quite actively angry that I didn't watch it, but I just think like there's only so much you can take of something that you're not enjoying. For me, I gave the era two full seasons to try and get into it, and at that point I just wasn't vibing with it. And like we're in a time where there's more TV than ever before, and there's backlogs of shows that I really want to watch that I've still not seen, that I'm working my way through. Like I only recently watched Barry and Severance, and they're two shows that have been on my list for years. It's just one of those things. I didn't want to get bothered by not enjoying it again, so I just decided to tap out. And also, it was a decision I made because, ironically, it was ironic that people got annoyed at me about it, because I just want to let people enjoy it if they're enjoying it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to contribute any more negativity to it.
Again, this is something that I just think it's the right approach, and anyone who is watching this, you won't have made it this far if you're this kind of person. But if you're screaming and ranting and shouting about something that you don't like online, especially when you're targeting points towards that thing, the race and gender of the actors and writers and the way that it represents people, just fuck off.
One thing I will like to add is that I've seen people say on like Doctor Who Twitter before, like, oh, there is no misogyny against Jodie, there is no racism against Joe Martin, As someone that has gotten a large influx of comments in the tens of thousands across a period of 5 years since 2018, which is when this era started, I can conclusively say that yes, there is so much of that. I've had so many comments in that time since I've been doing full fat videos that I've just been like, what the fuck are you talking about? Or like, that is disgusting. Like horrible comments about those actors, about like storylines, about like including people of certain genders and cultural backgrounds. So I always find it laughable when people say that, like, oh, there is no misogyny, or there is no, there is no backlash that's unfounded. Like, there absolutely is. But also, again, like, as you say, like, I don't want to contribute to that. I just want to very specifically criticize the writing or like the cinematography, which I've not enjoyed. And, past a certain point, like, I'm not going to keep being negative about it years in. Like, even when I did a Power of the Doctor video, do you know what I mean? It was just like, it's done now. I didn't enjoy that either, but I'm sure some people did, and if they did, that's great. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I hope that made sense. Maybe that was a bit
Yeah,
rambly. But yeah.
It did make sense. It's the I think if you don't like something, it's the best way to approach it. But we're going to wrap it up with this last question. Another one from YouTube from Captain Stage. Very passionate question. How do you feel about the fact that the show has not yet brought back Susan? It disgusts me how they bring back all these other characters, but they haven't brought back the one character they promised would come back, and she's still alive. So why haven't they? We don't have the answers.
Captain Stage, sure, you're a lovely person. Don't take this personally. I give no fucks. I do not care. If we never see that character again, I don't give a shit.
Wow, that was brutal. That is brutal to see. Because the other question was, "What are your thoughts on?" Someone, Will Thomas asked, "What are your thoughts on Classic Who?" We haven't really strayed into it. I don't know if you've watched much Classic Who or.
Yeah, I've watched stories here and there, like over the years, but I don't know if this is a bit of a controversial opinion, but I'm not like that. I don't have that much affection for it. Like, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. But I think it's fair to say that the Doctor Who from 2005 onwards is a different show that's in the same continuity. Like, they have similar premises, but the way that they are made, the format length, the way that they're partitioned, the acting, and so forth is very different. And yeah, there's some great stories in there. I'm not discounting that, but it's not something. It's more something that I watch to like get the history of Who. It's not necessarily something that I watch because I love it. You know what I mean? I feel like maybe that's not popular to say, or maybe I'm going to lose some Doctor Who cred for saying that. I don't know.
No. I mean, some people just don't vibe with it. I mean, I tried multiple times over the years, and I really struggled with it. And I think, to be honest, the only reason why I got so intensely in love with it was because I watched it in lockdown and I had literally nothing else to do, and I watched all of Classic Who in lockdown. But some people don't vibe with it, and I get that, because there were many years where I tried to watch a few episodes and I was like, I'm not feeling it. Not feeling it right now. And then I watched the same episodes a few years later and I loved it. But I think I've got a bit of a hot take here.
Oh, go on.
In terms of Susan coming back, even as someone who is quite an intense Classic Who fan, I'm not really that bothered.
No.
She's for me, she's one of the weaker companions in terms of her characterization. She's if they brought her back and did something great with the character, then I'm always on board. But you know, she left the show and she was immediately replaced by Vicky, and Vicky for me is a much superior companion. I think she's
I haven't
better
seen as much
companion.
of Vicky, but what I will say is I think people always ask for Susan to come back because she's his granddaughter. There's such a
that's
connection.
what I think it is. But I have always preferred Hartnell and Vicky,
right,
and their relationship, because she's his granddaughter.
Yeah,
he's very grandfatherly with her and very stern, which means you don't get as much of the Hartnell fun side when Susan's around, because he's always chastising Susan for doing things wrong and for not being safe. So then as soon as you get Vicky, who's slightly more distanced but very much in the same role, and she's a bit more cheeky, then Hartnell gets a bit more cheeky, and they've just got like a really weird, like grandfatherly but like best mate dynamic, where they just have a laugh, and Hartnell just lightens up a lot.
Yeah.
I think as soon as Susan goes, you get a lot more of the Hartnell twinkle. And like in The Romans, which is like the first Vicky's first full episode as a companion, like Hartnell beats the shit out of a Roman soldier and throws him out of a window, and talks about the gentle art of fisticuffs and chuckles to himself afterwards, and him and Vicky just have a right laugh about it. It's great. That's how I feel about Susan anyway. I would love to see Caroline Ford back. That would be really nice. But maybe that's how you do it. You get Caroline Ford back for a little swan song, and then Susan regenerates, and then maybe you can revamp Susan a bit as a character. That would be the way to do it for me.
I gave that answer because I thought it was funny. You know, and I was being provocative. But you know, I think for me, I prefer him as the lonely god. It always stayed with me when we watched it growing up, when, you know, the Doctor would sort of lament like, oh yeah, I've been a parent and a grandparent and now they're no more. Like, I think that's what's so tragic about him, and that makes the found family aspect to it so special, is that there's loads of people that love him and care for him, or should I say them now. It's not something I necessarily need to see. What I would like to see, however, is you know, I want to see the Doctor doing Aikido again.
Yeah.
Or some kind of martial arts.
Let's just get the Doctor beating the shit out of people again. That's what I want to see.
It's one of those mad things with the Third Doctor's era, in that, like, I feel like people have such an idea of what Doctor is now, that if a Doctor got announced tomorrow that knew martial arts, or that knew, like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or, like, Thai boxing, everyone would be like, this is such a betrayal of the character. He's supposed to be like brain over brawn, sorry. But it's like, no, like, the Third Doctor was kicking ass, man. Like, why can't we get back to that?
Exactly. It's like, I can't remember, I think it was in Clever Dick Films' videos, and he says about how there was such a backlash in the TV movie to like the motorbike chase. He was like, as if we haven't seen this before, when John Pertwee demanded like a 12-minute car chase in his last story. He was just jumping in random vehicles and hovercrafts and motorbikes every 5 minutes. Like, people just forget that is a whole element of the Doctor's character that we've just sort of left behind.
And it's like, I think that's ultimately why the death of franchises happen, is because, you know, like, as soon as it starts to become a generational fan base, everyone has such a clear idea of what they want from that franchise that it becomes almost impossible to satisfy everyone, or to do a take on it that doesn't feel like a betrayal. Even if it was to harken back to something like for example, you know, if you were to do a new spin on Aikido, because I'm sorry to Aikido fans, but it's not a particularly effective martial art. Let's say the Doctor knows Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. I feel like everyone would be saying it's a betrayal of the Doctor's character, but it wouldn't be, because they've been established as a martial artist before, so it would be no different.
I think Pertwee's the outlier, though, because I think Pertwee is probably the most godlike Doctor, in that he can just do anything. I'm almost certain, and again, this was mentioned in a video somewhere, I'm almost certain that it is canon in a comic book that the Third Doctor can fly. He can just levitate. He can fly. He knows how to fly. I think he can literally do anything. He's just the Doctor that you would want in any situation, because he can do anything.
I do like the Doctor as a bit of a wizard-like figure, and I particularly enjoy like all the telepathy powers and that kind of stuff. I think that's much more suited to him in terms of like the realm of powers. Flight might be a bit of a stretch, but
no, I think all of the Doctors should be able to fly. I just think any situation, any dodgy, the Doctor's surrounded by Daleks and they just zip up into the air like Superman, and they just fly off. And I think we should make that.
That's even
now canon in the show.
That's even funnier, the Superman flying, because I was kind of imagining like the Magneto kind of hovering. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't expecting like.
No, I'm imagining arm up, like the Doctor when he goes down the thing in the library, And you get that weird shot of David Tennant with the Sonic. Like,
yeah.
Well, that was bloody Twitter. That was a wild ride on bloody Twitter today. We had thrills and spills and chaos and breakups and everything. We had everything. We're coming to the end of the show because we have our final segment, and it's one that's very dear to my heart. It's the Corridor of Fame.
Have you ever been limited by who you were before?
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back.
Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing.
Sarah Jane?
Do I have the right?
For some people, small, beautiful events is what life is all about.
Nursery compared to us. 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really
Every great decision creates ripples. Like a huge boulder dropped in a lake.
But it was a childish dream that made you a doctor. You dreamt you could no more.
I'm not just the time. I'm the last of the time.
Just disappears, doesn't it? Everything you are gone in a moment, like breath on a mirror.
I do what I do because it's right. Because it's decent. And above all, it's kind.
Love abides in the face of everything.
So, the Corridor of Fame, for anyone who hasn't watched before, is sort of a hall of fame for Doctor Who. It's a collection of people, again submitted by my guests, who have contributed something wonderful to Doctor Who. The heroes of Doctor Who and the unsung heroes. There's a wonderful collection of names in here. And Matt, it's time to find out who you would like to submit to the Corridor of Fame.
I would like to submit none other than Ryan Gosling.
I can't believe you're actually doing this. I love this. Right, so I am very used to jokey, funny, hilarious answers for the DVD.
Well, that's not going to be this.
But I don't think we've ever had. I think this is the wildest submission to the Corridor of Fame we have ever had. Ryan Gosling.
Look, I just think it's it's always insane when Doctor Who is referenced by an actor or famous person that you never in a million years would have expected them to even know Doctor Who exists. Even though like it's an international sensation, I still feel like it has that kind of underdog feeling where, you know, like every Doctor Who fan knows that they're a little bit uncool for liking Doctor Who. You know, we're all nerds here. You know, we're not cool for liking our Spacebox show. And in comes Ryan Gosling, possibly one of the coolest men in Hollywood, one of the coolest men on the planet, just casually talking in an interview about him watching Matt Smith's speech in the Pandorica Opens. And then, you know, like being spotted wearing a Shooty Gatwa t-shirt, and he's pulling it off. He's dripping swag in a way that I will never achieve. It's just remarkable, really. I can't believe it. And the fact that he cast Matt Smith in his directorial debut because of the Pandorica Opens is insane.
It's insane.
So yeah, he's the coolest Doctor Who fan on the planet. He's making us all look good by comparison, and I appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you for doing that.
You've won me round to this. You've won me round. This is I'm so happy this is happening. I have longed for just because even though the Corridor of Fame is a sacred place to me, I just think someone's just got to put a wild pick in there at some point. Some words that I never thought I would say on Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. Ryan Gosling is in the Corridor of Fame. His portrait is hung up. And now we have Doctor Who legends like Verity Lambert and Russell T Davies and Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling. He's a Doctor Who legend. He was
Do you
making
think-
Shooty Gatwa merch cool before it's even been officially licensed, you know?
What I
So-
think that's the thing. I think we also need to point out the fact that it wasn't even officially licensed Doctor Who merch. It was fan art with the watermark still on it, edited onto a T-shirt by Matthew Purchase, I believe it was. So shout out to Matthew Purchase, who must have had the most insane day that any human has ever had to wake up and find out that your Doctor Who fan art that you made is now on Ryan Gosling's chest
It must
on
have
the
been a
set
mighty
of the
good
Barbie
feeling.
movie.
And also, this is the other thing. He deserves a place in the Hall of Fame because he's going to be alongside another Doctor in Shooty Gatwa, and they're both playing versions of Ken. So in another sense, he's playing another incarnation of Shooty Gatwa. So he's even more connected, really.
So Ryan, are you saying Ryan Gosling's the Doctor? Because I'm
not saying Ryan Gosling's the Doctor.
Well, I think this is maybe like my favourite 10 minutes of the podcast ever. Because Ryan Gosling, do you think there's a chance that we'll ever see Ryan Gosling in Doctor Who?
I think we've got more of a chance of Peter Jackson ending up directing an episode before that happens, unfortunately.
I think it has never been more likely. I'm not saying it's likely, but I think it's never been more likely. Just a cameo. Imagine. You know how Star Wars does it with stormtroopers? If we get like a Cyberman episode, and then 5 years later we find out that one of those Cybermen was Ryan Gosling, that's the dream. So
we need him like Kylie Minogue style, guesting in like one of Shooty's Christmas specials.
Yeah,
like, that would
definitely
be immense. Directed by Peter Jackson, because you know what, that could have also been another pick. Maybe I should have gone with that, but it's too late now. It's Ryan Gosling.
Right. I need to say it again to make it real. Ryan Gosling is in the Corridor of Fame. I just know that every time I send this document out to guests that has the Corridor of Fame pics on, every single time, I'm going to get people coming back to me and going, why is Ryan Gosling there?
Fantastic. This is exactly.
I can't wait.
This is perfect. This is perfect.
Wonderful.
I'm sorry to have sullied your perfect streak, though. But
no. I mean, like there's like 40 people in there, so I'm now happy to have Ryan Gosling in.
That was also partly the motivation of doing it. Is I was reading through all the names. And even after I'd read it all, I wasn't confident that I wasn't going to pick one that wasn't already on there. So I was just like, well, there's no way Ryan Gosling's on there, so I'm going to go with that.
Well, there you go. It's a long list now. People are now just going to put random names in. Tune in next week for when Harrison Ford will be put in the Corridor of Fame, just because he definitely won't be on the list. Right. Well, that brings us to pretty much the end of the show. I have one question before we leave, which is a question that I ask to all of my guests. And I always say in a sentence, don't worry if you can't contain it in a sentence, but in a sentence, what does Doctor Who mean to you?
I would say it's the single biggest reason I've ever wanted to pursue anything creative in film or TV or digital spaces. I guess that's the one sentence line, isn't it? But yeah, to expand, I would just say it's expanded my imagination from a young age, and it's amazing, and I love it.
Yeah, good. And I tell you what, aren't we all the better for it? Because as I've said before many times on this podcast, the Full Fat Videos channel is belter. It's milky, as they say. as many people say. So this is your time. Plug away. Plug whatever you want to plug. Where can people find you? What are you working on? What do you want to direct people towards? Go ahead. This is your time.
I guess just keep watching the videos, guys. The last couple of videos have been not very well watched, should we say? Which is I'm sure you'll agree is something that just happens on YouTube. Sometimes you'll get like some banger videos, and then another time you'll be tirelessly working away on things, and not a single one is hitting, not a single one. So I would just say, please watch them.
Well, don't you worry, sunshine, because this big boy podcast is about to bump your numbers up, my friend. Me and my 500 subscribers are going to flood to help you out. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
Well, I feel like this will have returning viewers over the years, because now when like occasionally I get a message like, what happens to you and the last guy that did this channel, I can just be like, well, here's my answer on the podcast. So I'll just link them up. I'll hook them up.
I'll happily take that. And where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. I think Twitter's at Full Fat Videos. Instagram's at full_fat_videos. You can find me on Patreon at Full Fat Videos, which is something, by the way, I think this year I plan to revamp a little bit more. I eventually took away the reward tiers to it, because I found that like half the time my patrons weren't clicking on the early releases or the scripts or whatever. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do what a couple of other people have done on Patreon and just say, if you want to help me keep the lights on, please donate some money. I'm not going to offer any more rewards. But I feel like my workload has gotten to a point now where I'm turning around the videos so quickly that perhaps I probably could offer something on there again. So that would be something I would say is in the pipeline that would be exciting for you to go and visit, is the Patreon.
Nice.
Yeah, and anyone that's watched the videos for the last few years, thank you immensely. It's the most humbling thing in the world for anyone to ever click on your content and say they like it. So yeah, thank you, and thank you for allowing me to do this full time and to get up in my pants and choose not to work on certain days. Like today, for example, this is the only work I've done today because I was so hungover. I just sat in my pants and slept, and I ordered a McDonald's breakfast. It was bliss.
Nice.
So thank you.
Beautiful. Well, it's been a joy having you on, and everyone at home, have been listening to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube, where you can view full video versions with our lovely faces. If you can like it, share it, subscribe, follow on Spotify, wherever you listen, just do any of that, because it really helps. And we've got some very exciting podcasts coming up next week. I can tease 2 weeks now. This is very fun.
God, I don't know who these are going to be either.
Oh, okay.
No.
Next week, I'm joined by Carrie Tankersley, who is a Big Finish cover artist who does amazing work. And the week after that, for the glory of the Sontaran Empire, I'm going to be joined by Dan Starkey.
Wow.
Strax himself is going to be joining me on the podcast. I'm very excited for that. Very, very excited. Yeah, subscribe so you don't miss those, because there's going to be plenty more guests coming over the coming weeks. And you can keep up to date with guest announcements and stuff on our socials. So Who Knew Podcast on Twitter, whoknewdwpod on Instagram, and Who Knew Podcast on TikTok as well. I'm going to be trying to start posts more on there, and you can email us at whoknewdwpod@gmail.com. You can also support this podcast on Patreon for as little as £1 a month. You can help me keep the mic on, and I do try and give early access and stuff like that where I can, but edits a tight turnaround, so we can't always promise it, but I try and give you a little bit extra where I can. And you can even get a little discount off a Who Knew t-shirt if you want to get some drip, Mate,
I will. The next, I want to start doing more on camera videos again. I want to get a teleprompter. I will get one of those t-shirts and I'll wear it on.
Oh my
videos.
god!
Yeah,
I
fun.
would love that. I would
That's the
love
merch.
to see a Who Knew T-shirt. I will send you the link and I'll hold you to it. So I think that's everything. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Matt. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. It's been really fun, actually. I've not done a podcast in ages, so I was quite nervous to do this, but yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Well, you know,
be nervous.
I think people think because you do things online that you're confident all the time, but it isn't the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Within this box, I appear slightly confident. Outside of here, I cannot interact with another human being, and eye contact is not something that I do. But yeah, well, thank you all for listening. I hope to see you all next week, and I hope you have a lovely week. See you again soon.
Bye.
Bye. Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast, is brought to you by the Who Knew Patreon. Massive thank you to our patrons, and a special thank you to Cal King. Thanks for listening to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. You can find us wherever you get your pods, as well as full video versions on YouTube. Please subscribe, like, share, leave us a review wherever you can, because it really helps us out. And a massive thank you to the Sononauts for lending us their cover of the Doctor Who theme tune to be the theme for the podcast.